2026, which I am calling to order at 7 o'clock p.m. There is a quorum of the commission, and this meeting is being recorded by WACA-TV and also being held live at the Ashland Select Board meeting room, as well as being held by Zoom. If there's any interruption of the WACA-TV signal, the meeting will continue. But before we get to our first agenda item, I will read a brief statement regarding the Zoom protocol. And also I would like to mention that this is a hybrid meeting, an off-cycle meeting where we handle 40B applications. My name is Greg Wands. I am the chair, and under Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 executive order, public boards are allowed to meet remotely. This order was most recently extended until June of 2027 by Governor Healy as part of the supplemental budget bill signed in March of 2023. Please follow these procedures for attending and participating. The meetings of the Conservation Commission will be held using Zoom. As I identify the item on the agenda, the applicant for that agenda item will be given an opportunity to provide a presentation and will be allowed to share the screen to show plans, pictures, etc. At the end of the presentation, the chair will entertain questions and comments from the commission. When the commission's discussion has concluded, the chair will open up discussion from the public. Upon the hearing or meeting conclusion, a motion to continue or close the hearing will be entertained. After any discussion, the chair will call for a roll call vote. During the meeting, commission members will keep their video on and microphone muted unless speaking. Applicants and representatives, please keep video off and microphone muted until your agenda item is discussed. Please keep your microphone muted until recognized. If you are calling in by phone number, you can use the *6 feature to mute and unmute. If you need to share screen, you may request permission through the chair to do so. When the discussion is open to the public, if you wish to ask a question or make a comment, you may request to speak by using the raised hand feature on Zoom. If you are calling in by phone number, you can use the *9 feature to raise and lower your hand. When acknowledged to speak, please state your name and address prior to speaking. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Comments must be limited to the Wetlands Protection Act, Ashland Wetlands Protection Bylaw, or Ashland Stormwater Management Bylaw. Questions and comments not related to the Commission's jurisdiction will not be accepted. During the meeting, the host, Becca Solomon, the Ashland Conservation Commission agent, will monitor the participants for raised hands and will be recording the names and addresses of commenters. Signing of documents will occur during the week after the conclusion of the meeting. And for those in the audience, if you wish to come to the microphone at the select board room, there will be a sign-in sheet at the podium. So our first scheduled hearing is Notice of Intent, 10 to 60 Main Street, map 14, parcel 128, SLV Ashland, LLC, care of Lucas Environmental, LLC, DEP file number 95-1018. And at this point, I will turn the microphone over to the Vice Chair, Carl Hackinson.
Thank you, Greg. We'd like to begin these 40B hearings with a summary of where we are and where we've been in the process for people, for the sake of people watching. And we've tried to also interpret some of the difficult language that sometimes happens in these hearings so that people can understand where we are and where we're going. So as Greg said, this is 1060 Main Street. It's a 40B hearing. This is our third hearing, I believe, with 10 to 60 Main Street. At the first hearing, we discussed the protocol that we'll follow. We asked the applicant to agree to stipulated facts Those are facts that we agree on, that we're not going to rehash back and forth over and over during the hearing process. We had 5 stipulated facts, to which the applicant agreed to 4. And the first fact was that a majority of the site is within floodplain. The second fact was that the Conservation Commission has jurisdiction over activities that alter floodplains. The third was that the site is contaminated. The fourth was that the site is within 100 and 200-foot riverfront area. The fifth fact was that historically the buildings on the site flooded. We did not come to an agreement on that fact. The Conservation Commission feels that they have historically. The applicant has not agreed to that. Then we move to the topics of discussion for the hearing, and they are in this order: 1, contamination; 2, stormwater; 3, floodplain; and 4, wetlands and riverfront area. We asked for the following documents: RAM report, which is a report that discusses how remediation would take place on the site; peer review for wetlands; a peer review for stormwater. We also asked for a peer review for the RAM report, and all correspondence between the applicant, the LSP, the DEP, the EPA regarding the RAM report. Subsequent to that hearing, the RAM report was determined to be invalid. And so that is something that the applicant is going to be working on going forward. We asked at the second meeting that in lieu of there not being an effective RAM report, that we have a soil management plan. I believe that the applicant's going to speak to that this evening. We then conducted a site walk a week ago Saturday, and then scheduled this hearing. We've also forwarded a number of questions, several pages of questions that are the Conservation Commission's peer review, if you will, to the applicant. We have not received a response to those questions to this date. So I think, have I left anything out? I think that's where we are at this point. So I believe this evening's discussion is going to be relatively brief. Some procedural issues will be discussed, and if I'm not mistaken, unless things have changed, the substantive discussion of 10 to 60 will be continued to May 4th, but we will get to that shortly.
Okay. Thank you, Carl. So with that opening, would the applicant like to address these comments?
Yes, good evening. My name is Chris Lucas with Lucas Environmental, professional wetland scientist and registered professional soil scientist. But we're here tonight for 2 main things: a brief update. We are in the process of preparing a detailed soil management plan. The applicant has consulted with the contractor. He's working with the LSP to prepare a detailed soil management plan as well as a dewatering plan. We're looking to specifically address the Conservation Commission comments related to the contaminants on the site. This will supplement the copy of the RAM report that you have on file. As we noted, we will have to resubmit that RAM report at a later date within 1 year of construction, but the package we're putting together now is comprehensive. So obviously we're looking to have that discussion at the May 4th hearing. The team will be there in person with the LSP, the contractor, myself, and Bowler. We're working on a package now. We're hoping to submit probably within the next 2 weeks. So we're hoping to have it to you, I think by the end of next week is reasonable. And that will give the commission 2+ weeks, if not more, to review everything. We wanted to make sure the commission had time to review it. That way we're not just walking into a hearing and throwing it at you. We think this will be better use of everyone's time. It'll give you time to go through the details and come prepared with questions, or provide them in advance so we can try to address them at the hearing. And as Mr. Atkinson said, we'll plan to focus on the topics for the soil management, contaminants, and dewatering. That will address comments, I believe it's 1G, 9E, and 10D and E, I believe, are the specific comments we'll address with that, and that'll address the contaminant issue. And then the other item tonight was just, we're seeking the commission's approval to move forward with the Beals and Thomas peer review, so they can begin the wetland review while we move forward with the contaminant and soil management plan.
Mr. Lucas, could you speak up a little bit? I don't know if I'm hard of hearing or if you're just hard to hear, but.
Sure. Do you need me to repeat anything?
No, I heard it. It's just for everyone else. It's good that you're clear.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the commission? Any comments from the commission online? Okay, so what you're asking for is a continuance then to our next.
Not yet.
We are open to a continuance, but we're seeking the commission's vote and approval to move forward with the Beals and Thomas peer review tonight.
Okay, so that's okay. All right, so
Do you, go ahead, Gene.
Chris, have you seen the estimate we got from Beals and Thomas?
Yes, we've reviewed it with the applicant, and we think it's reasonable to move forward. We find it acceptable, and we'd like to engage and get this moving. So we're amenable to it.
Okay, all right, good.
okay, so we're just looking for a motion to approve Beals and Thomas as the peer review.
Well, has everybody seen it and
Yeah.
comfortable with it?
Okay.
Okay.
Is everyone commissioners online, they're okay with the proposal from Beals and Thomas?
And for the benefit of the public, we have two peer reviews here. This is for the wetlands peer review. Previously approved peer review was for stormwater. So they're two separate peer reviews.
Yeah, and you looking for a motion?
Do I hear a motion to accept the proposal for Beals and Thomas as the wetland peer review for 10 to 60 Main Street?
So moved. Second.
Roll call vote?
Ackerman, aye.
Roll aye. Crouch aye.
Hackinson, aye.
Moulton, aye.
Toledo, aye.
Wands, aye. So the motion passes. And the Beals and Thomas peer reviewer for the wetland portion of your NOI is approved.
Excellent, thank you. And just as another question for the commission, I know we had discussed at the last hearing about potentially setting up a short call with Bowler and GCG before they initiate their review. We were wondering if that's still amenable with the commission and potentially do the same with Beals and Thomas, maybe a joint call, or we can have a separate call with them just to kick this off, to explain the project and then let them do their review.
When you say a joint call, what do you mean?
I don't know if it would be worthwhile to have a call with Beals and Thomas, Bowler, Lucas Environmental, and GCG we can present the facts to them and then they can start their review.
Oh.
We think it would be useful. Or if not, at least Bowler would like to meet with GCG in person or virtually to start their review before they start it.
What, I have a question here. What's the purpose of this? No one has ever requested that in my tenure on the Conservation Commission, that the peer reviewer meet with the applicant prior to beginning their work.
It was just to provide a little history, how we got here, what we've done with the design, point out some, the major issues, the concerns, how we designed the project. We've done this in other towns. It's not uncommon. If you're not amenable, just say so. We would like to do it. We think it would help with the peer review, moving it along. I don't see any harm in it.
I would suggest that that someone from the Conservation Commission or our agent also be on that call, just so we're all aware of what transpired during that conversation. The peer reviewers work for the Conservation Commission, And I don't think it's unreasonable to have us in the room while they're speaking with the applicant.
I agree, and that's, most of the times when we do this, usually the agents will attend. Commission's obviously open to it, but then you get into public meeting issues, so usually it's the agent, we have no objection to that.
My general feel on this, is that it might be better if you could submit a letter to them, because that way it's also in writing for, that we could get a copy of as well. That way it's very, there's no question of what was said or what wasn't said, and everybody's on the same page. But that's just one opinion.
A letter to our peer reviewers or to the Conservation Commission requesting what Chris is requesting?
No, instead of a in-person meeting, do it in writing.
Oh,
And that way we could also have a copy of what, it'd essentially be an additional document submitted as opposed to a meeting.
well, if our agent were present at that meeting, she could take minutes of that and enter that into the record.
If she's comfortable with that.
I can do that.
I think that would be appropriate. If Ms. Solomon's available, we can set up maybe a virtual call would be best, just, an hour or so, just to present the project, give them a little history of what we've done, where we are, and let them ask some preliminary questions, and then we'll let them do their review, and we'll respond to their comment letter when it's available.
With all the people we're talking about here for this pre-discussion, it sounds like a Zoom meeting might be the most efficient and effective way to do it.
I think so. I think that would work.
Mr. Lucas, this is something that we talked about in the first hearing. We didn't come to any conclusion, but we did discuss peer reviewing the RAM report. Subsequent to that, there's no effective RAM report right now, but I think it would probably be in the Conservation Commission's best interest to also request a peer review of the soil management plan.
Well, I believe the review of that would fall under the civil review for your stormwater. They're reviewing the overall site design, and the soil management plan will be part of the construction and how soil is going to be managed and moved throughout the site. That's typically reviewed, at least in all the jobs I've been involved in, that's reviewed by the civil engineer as part of the overall project. And their job is to make sure that the soil is being moved appropriately in, per the DEP requirements.
Well, what we discussed last time and it's important that we get this right, I think, is that besides knowing how the soil is going to be moved, we need to know what's in the soil and where it is in the soil. So hopefully that will be part of that soil management plan. And I'm not sure if anyone on this commission is qualified to speak to the technicalities involved in that. Anyone else have any?
Yeah, it's not just moving the soil around, it's making sure that how it's handled is appropriate for the contamination that might be found within it. And I don't know that, a civil engineer is necessarily the appropriate person to evaluate that. It would really be more like another LSP.
That's what I would think as well.
I would suggest, why don't we get the material to the board, let you review the material once you have it, see where you stand after that, and we can have further discussion on this point at the next hearing. We'll have our team there. You'll have an opportunity to review what we submit, and that, I think, would be better guide the commission on the next step from there.
Okay, if you want to do that, we still, I think, feel pretty strongly about having a peer review of it, and if we don't move forward with establishing that, it's just going to delay the review.
I understand. At this time, the applicant is not willing to discuss that tonight for this hearing, so
Okay.
I think we can, well, I'll make sure your point's noted to the applicant again, and we can further discuss it at the next hearing.
Okay,
We understand if there's a delay, we understand.
all right.
Any other points before I open it up to the public? Go ahead, Preston?
If it would be appropriate, I'd just like to comment on a few things that were observed during the site visit.
Sure.
Yeah, okay, so most of the board was there, and we noted, as shown on the plans and has been mentioned, there are 3 different pipes that go under or through the wall that connect to the Sudbury River for, that allow water to flow out and potentially in. And there's a berm along the south side of the property at the edge of the parking lot, and on the other side, there's a little stream that I believe was originally a raceway where water flowed under or through the mill, used to power the mill. I don't know the exact details. It's believed that that is closed off and no longer flowing from Mill Pond. However, where we observed where it's first visible on the surface, Becca disturbed a little bit of the rust that was there in the sediment, and we could see it flowing. So there is water, some water still flowing through there, and there's a question of where is that water coming from? So that's probably the most interesting thing we observed. Everything else was pretty much as shown on the plans. If anybody else was there and would like to comment, that'd be fine.
Chris, you don't have to speak to this evening, but just so that you don't feel ambushed at the next meeting, and for everyone else's information, we asked for a second site walk because we weren't able to enter the buildings. And we made this known to the applicant. And the applicant said there was no need for a second site walk because the buildings were not jurisdictional. We received an email today from DCR that corroborated our position that the buildings are jurisdictional. They're jurisdictional for floodplain and they're jurisdictional for contamination. So I would suggest one more time that we do have a second site walk and that we are allowed to go in the building. You know, the response that there are people working in there, we're not going to be going in dentist's office and like, we'll probably be in the bowels of the building. But it's someplace that we need to get in order to continue this deliberation. So you can speak to the applicant about that and get back to us at a later time if you want.
Yeah, I can do that. Two points on that. One, if you could share the information you received from the DCR with.
We will, yep.
You could share that tomorrow, that'd be great.
It just came in this afternoon.
I did speak to the team. There actually is no basement. This building was built on slab at grade, so there's no basement to view. I'll let the applicant know you still want to pursue a second site walk, but it would be at grade level, first floor, and you would be interfering with businesses. So if we're going to do that, we would have to make arrangement with the businesses, and we can't guarantee they're going to let you in. I don't know what their lease arrangements are, but I will let the applicant know you're still interested.
Okay, well, we're going to have to get in, so.
Just be aware that there's no basement level.
Yeah.
And I'll talk to the applicant. I don't know.
Basement relative to the street.
Yeah, we've been in the building before.
Right. I'll talk to him and we'll see what arrangements we can make with businesses. I have a business and I have a lease, and and no part of that contract would I have to let you in my building, my office, if I chose not to under my lease agreement. So I'll let them know. I'll talk to the applicant and I'll see what arrangements can be made for, whatever access we can get you. I'll talk to them and see what they can do.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else on the commission? Online?
No.
All right, hearing none, I will open it up to the public for comment, and I'll start with those who are on site at the select board room. If anyone would like to come to the microphone and speak. All right, no? Okay. All right, next I will open it up to the online viewers. If there's anyone who would like to make a comment at this point. No? Seeing none? So, Mr. Lucas, are we are we good for tonight? Want to move on to continuing this hearing?
Yes, I think we've got the motion for the Beals and Thomas to review. I've got notes to talk to the applicant about access to the building. The commission will send the information we got from the DCR today, and we'll have a packet to you in the near future on your staff and the commission's comments on the soil management order. So I think we're good for a motion to continue if the board's ready to. Thank you.
One final question, Mr. Lucas. You mentioned certain points that you were going to send answers to. I believe there were 4.
Yes.
What about the rest of them? There were like 7 pages that we sent to you.
Yeah, as we previously indicated, we fully intend to answer those once the peer reviewers have chimed in on those items. Because there's comments on floodplain and some other details, we think it more appropriate to allow them to comment. And then, because we anticipate there'll be additional comments, and then we'll provide a more robust, because a lot of the other comments are related to floodplain, resource areas, stormwater. As those are future topics, we wanted to advance the contamination for you, so our focus is on that right now. And those others, we fully plan to address them all in a future response. As we said, we think it'll be more appropriate to have Beals and Thomas and GCG's review, and we can provide a comprehensive package on those issues.
The comments that we put in that letter, we want answered. I'm not so sure that waiting for the peer reviewers to get involved, that's not going to change our mind. We still want answers to those questions. So you can go ahead and start preparing those now. You don't have to wait.
We are evaluating some of them right now, but we'd also like the input, there are a couple points we differ on. We'd like to see what the peer reviewers say on some of these things as well. So I think we do intend to address them. We don't want to be focusing and doing things and then have the peer reviewer have a different direction and then have to redo it. It's a cost and a burden. And we started looking at some of them. So it's not like we're sitting here waiting. We started looking at it. We're just not prepared to fully respond, and we think it appropriate to wait for the peer review.
My concern is that for the record, that the record needs to be clear, and the record needs to show a clear separation between your answers to our questions and your answers to peer review responses. And so if they're commingled, that's going to be difficult.
So the responses won't be commingled. What we plan to do is prepare a revised plan and stormwater report in response to your comments, both peer reviewer comments. But what we will do is have a letter, and that letter will have the numbered letters. So we'll have a section that specifically responds to 1 through the 10 pages of the agent's comments. We'll have a separate section that responds to GCG with the comment and our response. And then we'll do the same for Beals and Thomas. So we'll have, each of them will be responded to separately. So you'll have a clear and concise answer, but we want to have one plan set, one package submitted. So it'll be, that plan set will refer to those comments.
Okay, and in your notes, you may have said this, but I didn't hear it. If you did, you should note that we're asking for a review of the soil management plan as well.
Yes, I do have that. I'll highlight that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? No? I think we're ready to schedule a date for continuance. So I believe it's April 20th is our next,
May 4th.
May 4th?
Star
Okay.
Wars Day.
Pardon me?
April 20th is Marathon Day. I believe.
Oh, that's right, okay.
May
Yeah.
the 4th be with you.
The 4th week of
Okay.
Or with us, I don't know. This is not.
Okay, I'll make a motion to continue this hearing to Monday, May 4th at 7:05.
Second.
Roll call vote?
Ackerman, aye.
Crow, aye.
Crouch, aye.
Hackinson, aye.
Moulton, aye.
Toledo, aye.
Wands, aye. Motion passes.
Great.
All right, Mr.
Appreciate
Lucas. Yeah, we'll see you on the 4th, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your
Yeah,
time tonight.
thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is Notice of Intent, 61 Waverly Street, map 15, parcel 12, the Gutierrez Company, DEP file number 95-1016. And we have, yeah, got it. And I'll, as previously done, I'm going to turn the microphone over to Carl Hackettson, the Vice Chair.
Thank you, Greg. Okay, this is the 40B application for 61 Waverly Street. This hearing began at the beginning of January, I believe. Subsequent to that, we set the parameters for these hearings. We conducted a site walk. We agreed for peer review for wetlands and stormwater. We sequenced the topics of discussion as bedrock, wetlands, and stormwater and infrastructure integrity. We've gone through all of these, I think, in great detail. The applicant has asked, I believe, to close the hearing this evening. At the last hearing, we discussed conditions, and I'll just talk about that for a minute. At the end of all of our hearings, if we approve the project, we issue what's called an order of conditions. And it's a number of pages of all the conditions that apply to what the applicant needs to do in order to be in conformance with their project. At the last hearing, we decided that we would not do that at that hearing, that we would do it at this hearing. And so we sent our proposal to the applicant. The applicant sent their proposal back to us, and that's what we will discuss this evening before we close the hearing. Does that sound right, Mr. Lopez? And just before you start, Mr. Lopez, and for everyone else, usually discussion of our conditions takes about 5 minutes. So just so that you realize that we're not picking on you this evening, this is a 40B. It's a different animal than most of the stuff that we have. So there's going to be a lengthier discussion. You've commented in great detail. We'll be responding to those comments. Okay?
All right, Mr. Lopez, yes, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, and good evening, members of the commission. For the record, my name is Israel Lopez with the Gutierrez Company on behalf of the applicant. Just one housekeeping item. I received a note from Will Park, who's joining us by Zoom, that the room, there was no visual on the Zoom of the room itself. I'm not sure if that's intentional or not, but thought I would just mention that.
When you say the room itself, the entire room or just?
I think of anything.
We're not on camera, is what he's saying.
We're not on camera.
Correct. We can hear you perfectly fine.
Well, we're on WACA, but that's not on Zoom.
Connor, are we able to turn the video feed on the WACA Zoom feed?
Thank you for
Thank you.
bringing that to our attention.
Not being on camera is fine with me.
Looks
Kind of
great. Thank
defeats
you.
the purpose, though, I guess.
Okay, great. So thank you for sending the draft conditions for the project. We did have them reviewed internally by our internal counsel, and then also the design team. We made some comments that we have provided, and these, I will just say to the vice chair's point about the extent and extensiveness of the comments. We've designed and built projects going back to the 70s where we've built 1 million square feet with an order of conditions that was 4 pages long with 4 or 5 conditions. Now these are 80 conditions or so. So a lot of I would characterize a lot of the comments here just really to try and create an unambiguous process where changes and things can be dealt with on the field or within the field with, scratch that, changes in the field can be addressed as necessary with very clear process within this order of conditions. So I'd say everything, I don't see any major disconnects with any of the conditions that were proposed, and would be happy to just kind of do a page turn if that's what the commission would like to do.
Yeah, that's typically what we do. We can start from the top.
Through the commission, I do have the applicant's comments and some additional comments from Mr. Crouch on one document. If you would like me to go through that in the usual fashion, I can do that, and the applicant or the commission can, excuse me, call out a stop whenever necessary.
Yeah, whatever streamlines the process.
The conditions you gave us, these are the original?
Yes, so.
They don't have the comments from the applicant?
The version in front of you on paper is the non-redlined version. The
Yeah,
version
okay.
I have screen shared has everybody's comments condensed together.
Okay.
So you're also, just as a reference point for anyone watching and for the commission's benefit, anything in black is original language to your standard conditions. Anything in purple is the redlining from the applicant. The blue appears to be what Jean has provided. Anything in red is removals or redlining from myself, and I'll reflect it accordingly. And highlighted is the additional new conditions or change in language that was originally prepared. Under your initial administrative conditions, the first change is from the applicant under 21B. It's just specifically calling out the reference to the plan set. It does, however, add an inclusion for field changes to be, any changes to the proposed project, including field changes, is the addition, shall be submitted to the Ashland Conservation Commission administered per condition number 49 in this order, as opposed to prior to the start of construction. The commission, as a reminder, the Wetlands Protection Act does not actually have any allowance for field changes in their regulations. Any changes have to be provided in writing to the Conservation Commission for approval to determine if it warrants a new notice of intent or an amended order of conditions. The commission has a minor modification policy that allows for minor field changes in the reduced scope of review. However, that's part of the local bylaw that was waived by the ZBA for this and would not apply. I believe Jean's comment is to keep the language at the bottom of that condition for the commission to determine if the proposed change warrants submission of a new notice of intent, which had been originally proposed for removal by the applicant.
Should we add or amended order of conditions?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, is when we were reading that. You've got a comment.
I do. So just a point, I think this is an important correction. My understanding is that the minor modification policy sits outside of the stormwater management bylaw, has nothing to, so the fact that the local bylaw was waived would not preclude the commission from allowing the minor modification policy to apply. And I do think that having that policy in place provides, that it doesn't give us anything, it simply just provides a very clear avenue that we have to follow, even if there are any changes, that essentially we get back to the same place, it's just through the minor modification policy. So this is just
So
really making it consistent.
You're in favor of keeping the minor modification
Yes.
policy in effect for this order condition?
Correct, yes.
And we pull it back in whether it was waived or not as part of condition 49
Correct.
by citing it. So,
I will scroll down to condition 49 real quick, just to make sure that we have the same language in mind.
And there's actually, if I may, just one, well, I'll let you get through that. I have another think there's just a duplicative comment in 49.
Condition 49 refers to changes to plan. Any proposed changes to the plans approved under this order of conditions shall require the applicant to file a request for an amendment to this order of conditions, the filing of a new notice of intent, or to file under the commission's minor modification policy. It then goes into further language of what that entails.
So basically what you're saying is by referencing 49 in the sentence before that, you don't need the last sentence,
Correct,
because it's basically saying the same thing in that, in condition 49.
correct.
Yeah, I see that. I don't have a problem taking it out then. I'm all for eliminating duplication if we could.
Well, also, as I heard town council for the ZBA say multiple times, if you say the same thing twice, courts are going to wonder which time did you, if you say it twice but differently, which one did you mean? So
Yeah.
eliminating any ambiguity, I think, is a good thing. And to that, I think you can just strike, just because it's duplicative, beginning with on or otherwise, inquire in writing whether a change is substantial enough to require a new filing. That is said in the very prior sentence, that very same thing.
I apologize. I think that language is back in condition 49. I've already scrolled back up.
Oh, sorry, yes, it
That's at
was.
49?
Yeah, so it says, I'll let you read it, but essentially it's the same comment twice in the same sentence, which gives it says, or otherwise inquire in writing whether a change is substantial enough to require a new filing. That's the end of that sentence. But it's also stated at the beginning of that sentence.
We like to make sure people understand. All right, well, we can revisit that when we get to 49, so.
Yeah.
I think that actually is different in that it says that if you think you have a change and the specific things listed aren't the correct course of action, if you inquire in writing as to how it's supposed to be handled, that's allowed. So I think it actually gives one more option as opposed to being redundant with the previous ones.
Okay.
So.
Remember that description when we get to them.
I'm not a lawyer.
If
Okay.
there's no further changes then on 21B, other than removing that last line, which is now shown in red, we'll move on.
Yep.
The next changes were in 21D. It's mostly language changes, changing appropriate federal and state laws to applicable federal and state laws, removal of reference to local laws and regulations, as this is a 40B, and I believe almost all of those were waived. The addition of as reasonably necessary to review the project and monitor compliance with this order of conditions. The removal of additional language so that it reads, instead of at any point between the issuance of this order and the issuance of a certificate of compliance, to read, at any point between the filing of an application to the issuance of this order of a certificate of compliance, it's changed to the issuance of this order and the issuance of a certificate of compliance.
I didn't have any problem with that.
This will be a recurring theme throughout, just changing of language from project plan or notice of intent plans or order of condition plans to simply read approved plans.
Yep, that's okay.
And those are the ones we cited specifically in B in the amended, so it's not ambiguous.
Yes. It's also cited on the actual order of conditions form with a date and reference to who signed and stamped it, so it's very clear.
And those will match.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Lopez, if in this process you have a problem, speak up.
I will, thank you.
Under 21H, this is the same thing as before, just changing it from notice of intent plans to approved plans, and this order of conditions.
Yep, that's fine.
Under 22D and E, the commission typically requires statements to be recorded on the deed of a property with all notice of intents, with D referring to fertilizer use to be low in nitrogen and phosphorus and use sparingly within jurisdictional areas. Under 22E, just noting that resource areas are present on the property. The applicant suggested these be removed as it is cumbersome for them to implement. Jean's comments are to keep them in. That's something the commission should discuss.
If I may, I just give my rationale for it. So that exact language is included in conditions 83 and 84, which we did not strike. So that language and that requirement will be followed exactly as it's presented here. We're just simply asking that it not be also written on the deed, because in past experience, it causes a lot of problems for lenders and attorneys as they start looking at the deed. This is going to show up as a title defect. Someone is going to say, well, wait a minute, why is this specifically called out here? You know, these are institutions that are going to be reviewing these documents. It's a $100 million project. So everyone will be aware that there's a recorded order of conditions. This will be recorded in there. So we're not trying to get away from the requirement. We just think it's more appropriately put in the order of conditions, and also, and the O&M plan will also be recorded. So that's our concern with this.
Do you agree with Mr. Lopez's interpretation?
To the commission, you've had these deed recording statements required on every notice of intent since the early 2000s. There are hundreds, possibly more, properties in Ashland that have this recorded on their deeds or as a permanent agreement to run with the land, and this has never been a problem, other than sometimes it needs to be recorded as an agreement to run with the land rather than directly on the deed. However, properties that are actively in the process of being sold when they come to you, such as for subdivisions, and I believe this property as well, it's typically easy to get it put onto the deed during the sale process.
Yeah, I understand both sides of this argument. With title search problems, as well as people not paying attention to the conditions when the property transfers. So,
Well, the requirement to put a notice on the deed that there's a wetland resource on the property or buffer zone or whatever we did that because I can't tell you how many times we had to issue enforcement orders on people who bought a property, maybe not the first owner, maybe the second or third owner from when the order was issued, and they filled the wetland or did something egregious on the property with regard to the Wetlands Protection Act, and we get there and they go, I didn't know. How was I supposed to know? Because the order's been, the certificate of compliance has been issued years ago, so there's nothing on the deed anymore that there's an order had been issued on that property. So the only way, and we said, well, it's your responsibility to figure this out, not ours to tell you, but we're going to do this to tell you, because now it's on your deed forever that it goes with the land, that this property has wetlands on it or a resource area on it. And all it says is that you have to come to the Conservation Commission before you do anything. It doesn't say you can't do what you want to do. It just says you have to come to the commission.
And for a single-family home, I can completely see that scenario happening. As a single-family homeowner, you know, you might not even know what that means.
Right.
Or might not know what wetlands even are, or that you have them on your property.
Or have read your deed.
Right. For a project of this scale, you know, that's just not ever going to be the case. I think our preference would be to not put any of this language on there. I think we would be okay with something that said that there are wetlands on the property. The use of fertilizer and, you know, those kinds of things just raise antenna unnecessarily, and I think just cause concern where I don't think the commission is gaining anything by putting that on the deed, because that's going to be followed. Obviously, it's part of the order of conditions and something that the applicant will have to comply with.
You don't have a problem with saying that there are wetlands. How about the language, wetlands and accompanying conditions?
Sure. Order of conditions, you know, wetland and order of associated
Well,
order of
again,
conditions.
As soon as your project's done, you're gonna probably come in and get a certificate of compliance. And then, I don't know how long you can own the property, I don't know if you're gonna be managing the property.
But the O&M plan is also a recorded document, so that, which,
And that's tied to the deed?
sure, absolutely, it's noted when you do the title
Yep.
search for the deed, the recorded O&M plan will show up.
Now, as a 40B, this has also got a deed restriction on some of the apartments being rented. I mean, they're rented, they're only at 80% market value, right?
It's not in the deed per se, it's
Oh, it's
just
not?
within the comprehensive permit. So the 40B, the comprehensive permit, as the order of conditions, will be recorded against the deed, but not the specific stipulation about, you know, any of the stipulations specifically within the 40B, within the comp permit.
Are you gonna manage the property when it's built? Or do you have a management company do that for you?
It would be a management company.
And they get copies of the deeds and all these conditions and so forth that, so
Absolutely.
they know what they're doing?
Absolutely. They have to manage the property according to that operation and maintenance plan and, you know, all of the other operational plans that they have to follow, for sure.
Through the commission, I would just note in terms of reference, these conditions have been put onto larger projects such as the entirety of Captain Eames Circle, Algonquin Trail, all of those condo associations, American Boulevard, YMCA, and Cirrus Apartments. Cirrus Apartments promised the same with their management team, and they have gone through numerous management in at least the 5 years that I've been here. And every time there's a new manager, they have no idea what the order of conditions is, have never heard of it, and we have to go have a conversation with them because they're not complying with the perpetual conditions in that order, or don't even know that there's wetlands or stormwater on the property.
But you wouldn't show them the deed in order to educate them about, you know, the order, you know, the work that needs to be done on the, with
Well,
respect to the.
Apparently, in the case of Cirrus, they're not getting the deed. So they're not getting it. I mean,
Yeah.
this is not foolproof. This,
Yeah.
I guarantee that putting a notice on the deed is not foolproof. But it's the only mechanism that we have to put something out there that the future landowner, if he's smart enough to look at his deed, will figure it out. Otherwise,
Yep.
you know, most people don't know what a wetland is.
A real estate attorney reviewing the deed for purchase and sale would call this out to their, you know, to the buyer.
Or not.
Well, I mean, when I bought my house, they called out that there was going to be a betterment fee on it because sewer was planned for in front of it. He called that out. It wasn't at that time, it said down the road, but he just let me know that that was going to happen. A good real estate attorney would do the same thing. They would see that, okay, you have these issues that you need to be aware of
Yeah, and
you're
if it
purchasing
says there are wetlands and then it references the order of conditions without going into the specifics of fertilizer and that kind of thing, doesn't that would also put them on notice that there's something to look out for here?
Yeah, and if it references the order of conditions and the order of conditions has those conditions in perpetuity for the low fertilizer and low nitrogen and phosphorus, then it should be, brought to their attention by their real estate lawyer.
To the commission, I've adjusted the language on 22D to read, record the following statement on the deed. Wetland resource areas and associated buffer zones exist on the property, and work done in these areas are subject to review by the Conservation Commission and an order of conditions with perpetual conditions issued under Mass DEP file number. I haven't finished writing the file number yet. This language must be on the deed or on a restrictive document acceptable to the town and recorded with the Registry of Deeds. Proof of recording must be provided to the Ashland Conservation Commission prior to issuance of a certificate of compliance. And then 22E is removed.
We'd be okay with that.
Okay,
Yeah,
I would accept that.
yeah.
Good, thank you, Becca.
Thank you.
Okay.
Moving on, 24. This is, again, largely minor changes from the applicant shown in purple. It's changing the commission's right to enter and inspect the premises to specifically be at reasonable times, which is not defined. That the requirement of submitting data is when deemed reasonably necessary instead of just necessary. The change that the Ashland Conservation Commission reserves the right to require additional measures if determined necessary to protect resource areas is changed to only be in the event of a violation of the order, to be corrective measures, and to, if determined necessary, to restore compliance and protect resource areas. This is pretty basic language that Mass DEP uses in most cases without those amendments. The applicant also suggested removing the last line, which specifically lists out the type of information the commission or its agents may acquire on the property during these inspections, which is shown on the screen, listing the specific things. This is, to a certain degree, outlined, I believe, in the regulations for the Wetlands Protection Act. However, it's been Mass DEP's recommendation for many years to list it out in your order of conditions in the event of any non-compliance that ends up becoming contentious, to have clear language of what you can and cannot do on the property so that there is full clarity for both parties.
One thing that I think the proposed change in language from the applicant would mean is we could require correction to get back to what the plan and order of conditions say, but if it turns out there's a problem on the site where the plan is insufficient for managing drainage during construction, which is always the biggest problem with projects like this, that this takes away our flexibility to say, yeah, the plan said during construction you do A, B, and C, and we can see that with the weather we're having and the way things are actually working on the site, that's insufficient. You need to do D also, and this would take the option D away.
I think that's also, that specific circumstance is covered in a subsequent condition that I'm sure we'll get to. We're fine with the commission requiring corrective measures so that the project stays in compliance with this order. We're just trying to tie this condition to compliance with the order. And I think the way that it reads currently, the commission could sort of make any determination about just about anything and say, we'd like you to implement X without having X be tied to compliance with the order. I think, so that's the intent here. We don't care so much about the reasonablys, that those are attorneys that put that in. I'm sure the commission will, go onto the site at reasonable times, even if that word isn't there. In terms of the language, and what data the commission can seek, I thought it was covered in the first part, but, we care less about that strikeout, the last strikeout. If, the commission wants additional information, we're happy to require it. It's really just trying to tie any changes to compliance with the order.
To the commission, if you remove this language, it is something you as a conservation commission can still require by right. If there is issues that are becoming something that you determine has an adverse effect on the wetlands or the interests of the Wetlands Protection Act related thereto, you would just issue an enforcement order instead of correcting it without having a document saying that you had to take enforcement action. This condition allows you to do it just by a conversation with no formal enforcement order that is also reviewed by DEP. If you change the language to Preston's point and something happens beyond the scope, you just have to issue an enforcement order instead that DEP would also review, and it would be a formal document.
Mr. Lopez, we've talked at length at these hearings about unanticipated issues, particularly with the sites around your site. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's why we're reluctant to not consider what happens if something unanticipated happens and we have to take some kind of some action outside of the scope of the normal conditions. That makes sense?
It does. It does. And as I said, I don't remember the exact section, but we'll get to it eventually, where it says, may require, for example, added or different or new stormwater, soil sedimentation and erosion control measures to enhance what's there. Even if you are, complying currently, you might have, what you designed might not be enough. And so that circumstance is fine. To me, this read, if you just read it as it was, it says the Ashland Conservation Commission also reserves the right to require additional measures if determined necessary to protect the resource areas and the interests of the Wetland Protection Act. That could mean a whole host of things that no one has, contemplated or has been approved. So, again, it was just trying to tie this to the order, but.
Well, we usually don't go fishing for these things.
Yeah.
Right.
They usually find us. So.
Right, that's an important point, that unless somebody tells us there's something bad going on, we don't necessarily go looking for trouble.
Yeah.
Now, for a big site like your site, I imagine Becca's gonna stop by every once in a while just to sort of, say hi and make sure everything is, all buttoned up
Right.
and in good shape. It's a big site, and your proximity to wetlands is pretty close. So obviously, we're gonna be a little bit concerned about that, just to make sure that, things are okay. But other than that, we don't actually go looking for problems. We have enough problems that come to us.
Okay.
So,
We can move on. I'm okay with the
and
language.
bear in mind, this is only for the period of time of that the order of conditions is valid. Once the certificate of compliance is issued, then then these all go away. So then it is an enforcement action if somebody tells us there's something going on that property that shouldn't be. But I'm sure that's not going to happen. You've designed a project that is in keeping with our interests and in protecting the wetlands. So I'm expecting that it is going to be fine and that there's not going to be any issues.
I'm knocking on wood.
To the commission, based on conversation, I've just changed that middle section to say the Ashland Conservation Commission reserves the right to require additional corrective measures if determined necessary to restore compliance or protect resource areas in the interests of the Wetlands Protection Act. I think that includes some of the applicant's language as well as maintaining the intent of the commission there. If there's further changes or you disagree with that, speak now.
I'm fine with that.
I would like to leave at reasonable times off. If there's, huge storm in the middle of the night and somebody needs to go out and look at it,
That's fine with me.
I was thinking of the same thing. I mean,
I think that would be reasonable, but somebody else might
I
not.
was going to say, that would be reasonable.
Yeah, but
I'm sure everyone's going to act reasonably.
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, your construction guys are gone home, and this has happened to us in the past on other sites where it's a weekend or it's after working hours and people have left, and we get a downpour, and then the site goes to hell, and nobody's there to do anything about it, so.
Through the commission and for the benefit of the applicant, conservation staff go and do inspections every time there's a 1/4 inch of rain in 24 hours. I think more than a certain amount within 1 hour, even on weekends and early morning and late night, as long as it's safe to do so.
So we're all set?
We're all set, yes.
Moving on, the next change is in 27, the pre-construction meeting. I see the applicant adjusted the numbering here for which condition is being referred to. I'm just going to highlight that all these numbers are going to change by the end, so we'll correct that at the very end. Some minor spelling and references. The final change was the applicant had suggested, removing the requirement at the pre-construction meeting for all individuals present to sign each page of this order, and the language requiring the agent and the commission to be provided in writing with the name and contact information for who's responsible for supervising the work on the project. Jean had suggested that instead of all individuals signing the order, it could be limited to just the site supervisor, if that's acceptable to the applicant.
That's fine.
Somebody's got to have read this, because otherwise they won't. I've been on enough construction sites to know they take the order and they throw it in a drawer, and nobody looks at it. So this is the only way we could figure out a way to make someone look at it.
Well, wouldn't be there a deputy or assistant site supervisor or project manager? Because you don't know what's going to happen to that site supervisor. If they ill or something, that there should be at least one or two other people that are, have read it completely and understand it completely. So if somebody gets sick or they're on vacation, that the other, one or two other people have, knowledge of the order conditions, know exactly what needs to be done.
We're okay with having the site supervisor and
And his assistant?
and his assistant or site supervisor on behalf of the applicant and site supervisor on behalf of the site contractor.
May want to put their assistants.
That's a good idea, because the contractor is the one who's actually doing it.
Correct. He's the one that's going to be there on a day-to-day, kind of managing all of the
Yep.
different subcontractors doing the site work.
Yep.
I think I got that language right.
I think there's no period, though.
All right.
I can't even read it.
Can we leave in the providing of the name, telephone number, the contact information of the person responsible, so that if there's ever a
It's
issue?
it's in 21I, that same exact requirement.
Okay. Is it?
It is. Yep.
21I reads, prior to any work being done on the project site, applicant shall inform
Yeah.
the Conservation Commission rather than the agent or the commission in writing of the name, email, and mailing addresses, and business and mobile phone numbers of both the project supervisor, who's responsible for ensuring on-site compliance with this order, and their alternate.
Okay.
The applicant shall also notify the commission in writing of any changes in this information.
That's fine.
Yeah, you understand why we need that. because
Absolutely.
Things happen. And we need to know who to get a hold of to get them to fix it.
So through the commission, since it's in the previous condition, the language will be removed from condition 27.
Okay.
Under condition 28, again, basic language changes regarding the plans. This condition typically read under 28A, the Conservation Commission or the agent may require additional or modified erosion control measures at any time during and after construction. It has been adjusted to read, and I apologize, I have things in the way preventing me from reading this comment. In additional or modified erosion controls in the event that installed measures are not functioning as intended or non-compliance with this order of conditions. I think needs to say is found. I don't know why it's typing all the way up there.
So some of this was just, I didn't understand it. The before construction begins or after construction is ended, I'm not sure what erosion control measures would be in place after construction is done. I guess could
Well,
be prior to when they're removed.
Well, if, required that the site be stabilized, you could be finished with construction, but you still not have a slope, completely be vegetated or stable, so it might require additional,
Yeah, I understand.
matting or something, put down additional seating, even though, the building's up and everything, it's functioning, and it would still need some additional work to be done to make sure it is completely stable.
Understood. So maybe it's after construction prior to the site being,
Well, certificate of compliance
yeah.
is the automatic deadline on this, so it's, That-
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Through the commission, if you were to accept the language from the applicant of in the event that installed measures are not functioning as intended or non-compliance with this order of conditions is found, I would also add the language, or if installed measures are not adequately addressing concerns, because they could be functioning as intended, but that may be below, it may not be functioning to the extent needed to address a certain rain precipitation event if we get one beyond what those controls are intended to address.
Goes to the
Yeah.
whole unintended consequences
Yeah.
thing.
We may spot something where it's working right now, but we're getting an extra 3 inches of rain tomorrow, and it won't work through that.
Right, and this is exactly what happened at Minda School. When they put in a new ball field, and it was a huge area of exposed soil, and then they went away for the winter. And now we had this massive source of erosion, but they put in a whole bunch of lines of erosion controls along, and not just around the edge of it, but all the way across it, and it actually stabilized it pretty well. Still had some failures along the way, but it was better than just putting a silt fence around the edge of it, because it never would have worked.
Right.
I've just added, or are insufficient after the reference to if they are not functioning as intended.
We're okay. I'm okay with that.
Under, I think we're on 28B, the applicant suggested removing that condition entirely. The condition refers to, should the commission determine additional erosion controls are needed, the developer or contractor shall immediately comply with the request from the Ashland Conservation Commission or its agent. The comment here is that it is duplicate with condition A. I think the main language here is immediate compliance with the request from the commission, whereas condition A does not necessarily specify immediate compliance.
Can we add that to A,
Yes.
and then you could get rid of B?
Add the
Fine.
word immediate after require before additional on A. Could be the.
And it says may, it doesn't say, it gives a little bit of flexibility for us too, in terms of that.
So that 22A now reads, the Conservation Commission or the agent may immediately require.
We would
What
prefer.
about require
Immediate.
immediate?
Yeah, I would put it the other way.
Immediate,
May require
immediate
the
addition.
immediate installation of additional or modified erosion control measures.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we can scratch B.
As this is already going to be changing some numbering and lettering on these conditions for anyone following along, I'm going to refer to the original numbering and lettering, which will now show as crossed out because track changes is on the document. The new condition here, which would be condition E under 28, which is one related to conditions required by Mass DEP, and I believe suggestions from the peer reviewers as well. All slopes greater than a 2-to-1 or greater grade shall be stabilized using jute straw matting or an equivalent made of natural material, no plastic mesh in parentheses, and excluding hay if it is to be left exposed for more than 7 days. The condition goes on to referencing the stabilization through planting with deep-rooted native grasses and herbaceous species, which was DEP's condition, within 14 days of reaching final grade, and reference of what should be done for erosion control if a seed mix is used rather than plugs of native plants. There's an additional note that any seed mix must be free of non-native invasive stabilizer plants, which would include crowned vetch, which is frequently being mixed into native seed mixes as a temporary stabilizer while the plants establish. DEP was very clear it had to be a native mix, and so that would need to be requested to be removed. I don't believe the applicant had any comments on this condition.
Correct.
So you highlighted that, it wasn't,
Yes.
it wasn't you guys.
Wasn't in our previous draft.
Oh, okay.
The,
This is added.
Yep.
I got it,
anything yellow highlighted was added based on hearing discussions.
got it, okay.
Should we qualify that with perennial seed mix rather than annual? I know that there's a difference.
Any seed mixes must include a variety of perennial species. Under 28I, the commission typically at this point would determine the minimum extra number of feet of erosion and sedimentation controls, or put in as a percentage of the total needed for the erosion control plan. I will leave that to the commission to discuss.
Yeah, I'd like to say 5, but I don't think you've got 5 feet from the edge of the erosion controls. Generally, I'm thinking maybe 2.
No, this is the amount, quantity of
Replacement
erosion.
materials.
So
Wait,
I was thinking
Like hundreds
800.
of feet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say 800. It's a fairly big site.
800?
Yeah, you could get 4 200-foot sections of filter sock. Unless you think that's too much.
It's a berm that's being left between the wetland and the site, is that correct?
Yes.
Well, I'm also-
Well, around the basin, around the subsurface or surface basin, there's going to be a berm. The other areas will grade down.
Well, I'm thinking also along the roadways and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, look what happened to the,
This might be a
Public
good one for
safety.
our engineer to chime in on. He's
Yeah,
online.
public safety building went right across the road, right into
Yeah.
Sudbury.
yeah.
The perimeter erosion control around the site, and especially between the disturbed area and the wetland, is called out as compost sock with silt fence. So, typically we've included this as a sheet note in the past, and it's usually around 100 feet, which we think is reasonable. Yeah, I don't think there's a scenario where the perimeter erosion controls will fail around the entire site all at once. 100 feet is usually enough to address a problem area. These materials are pretty readily available, so another 100 or 200 feet could be available the next morning. I think we typically see 100 feet available on site at all times.
I think different erosion controls have different failure rates. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not the expert on this, but I think it's the silt fences that I have seen fail most frequently. So if we could have more footage of silt fences than the others, I would feel more comfortable.
I think if you're gonna put down an emergency, this would be like emergency situation when you got a higher rainfall than anticipated, that, and you're starting to see some breaches, that a filter sock would be a better, because a silt fence you have to trench in, where a filter sock, you're just gonna put it down, anchor it down. You can anchor it down with concrete blocks or whatever, but,
This is why I'm not the expert.
so what's the total of erosion controls around the site? that you're gonna
It's
put in place?
multiple hundreds of feet.
How much of a total, what's the total amount of erosion controls in linear feet is gonna be around the site?
Yeah, I understand the question. I don't have that number readily available. I can calculate it if you'd like. But again, you referred to when these typically happen, they are usually very isolated situations when they occur. So 100 or 200 feet to address that, point source discharge is usually enough. And I agree that you know, if you're installing silt fence from day one, it is supposed to be keyed in and everything. In an emergency situation, silt fences, I think, actually do a pretty good job, especially if they're backed up with a straw bale, because they do have, you know, a foot or two of head for water to build up on versus the compost sock or straw wattle is 12 or 18 inches high and can be overrun more easily.
Through the commission, as a reference point, on the previous YMCA application, which is similar in scale to this project, you required 300 feet of extra controls on that site.
I think that would be appropriate for this site as well.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right,
Thank you.
so that's 150.
Moving down to condition 29A, the applicant is just clarifying the abbreviation for the Ashland Conservation Commission and adding in or its agent. Under 29D, and for reference, 29 is all language related to the erosion control monitor. 29D typically reads that the monitoring shall be performed while work is underway within the buffer zone or wetland, and requires the monitor to report to the commission progress on construction and site grading, any changes in construction schedule, and steps taken, i.e. corrective measures, to address any problems encountered. This is something that's typically required by the commission and by other communities. Notably, most communities would require the monitor to be an unbiased third party that the commission chooses, but the applicant pays for. Your conditions allow the applicant to choose with approval from the commission. The commission has never disapproved of an erosion control monitor, but has always required these updates. The progress on construction and site grading typically is required as far as it's in relation to any impacts on erosion control management and stormwater management.
And they're asking for this to be removed?
And they are asking for the line progress on construction and site grading and any changes in construction schedule to be removed. They are adding or for steps taken and recommendations to read steps taken and or recommendations. And they have added language, monitoring shall continue until work in the buffer zone is completed and said disturbed areas are permanently stabilized. I have found on some of the sites that sometimes this work is the first completed and work continues up gradients and then ends up causing new erosion in that area. So I would recommend to the commission, if you accept that language, to refine it to say any work within the buffer zone or those that are up gradient or up a higher elevation that could impact erosion on that area.
What's the rationale, Mr. Lopez,
Yeah.
for this request?
So the rationale here is just simply to, an erosion control monitor is something that's very typical. We have one on every site project that we do. They essentially administer the SWIP recommendations. So they're there to monitor soil conditions and erosion and control through site stabilization. One comment that I would like to clarify here, just to save some discussion, is that this inadvertently cut off the monitoring at completion of just the work within the 100-foot buffer. It should be through until all the site soils are stabilized. So, I think if you just add the word "and," I'm sorry, add the word all after completed and all disturbed areas are permanently stabilized. I think that's what you were probably getting at. So just to step back again, we're totally fine with the notion of a monitor. It's completely standard. They'll provide biweekly updates on all the sedimentation and erosion control. What they're not intended to do is provide a general construction update, construction progress report, if you will. You know, they're not privy to the construction progress or schedule. They're really there to monitor the erosion and control measures, how effective they're being, any issues, addressing any issues, making recommendations to the commission, and so forth. So, so that's just what we're striking is just the changes in construction schedule, progress on construction, I guess site grading. We could, not sure if that's really part of the scope, but the other components of what the site monitor is there to do, we're retaining.
Well, it would be useful for the inspector to have a heads up on what grading is coming up in the week, so that they know either what to expect or, you know, where erosion controls might need to be looked at a little more carefully than other areas. I think that was the purpose of that. Obviously, they're not directing construction, so they don't really have much say in the construction sequencing. But I think knowing what's going on, I mean, I've seen construction contractors put out a list at the beginning of the week that says what they're going to be doing for the next 2 or 3 weeks. I'm sure you're going to have a heads-up schedule that goes out a couple of weeks, so you know what they're doing on the site. I guess if the inspector could get that list, that would be probably adequate.
We're okay with including grading within the scope. I think it's just the idea of just a general construction schedule type aspect to this report. We just
Yeah.
don't want to create the expectation that it's kind of a report about construction progress, and it's really.
No, we don't care about your construction progress,
Right.
and I don't think they will either. But
Right.
but to know that, well, next week you're paving the road, that's going to stabilize the road now. So that's a good thing. Then we don't have to worry about that eroding anymore.
Yeah, I would say changes in site grading, stabilization, or stormwater management systems.
That's fine.
Yeah, because that's clearly within
Right.
their area.
Yeah.
I would suggest to the commission, if this condition is taking out a report on construction schedule, that a condition elsewhere should be added for that to be provided to us by the project team, just for everybody's safety. If we have to go out and do a stormwater inspection or a regular biweekly inspection, and you guys are doing blasting, we don't want to be out there when you're doing blasting. Especially if we have to walk onto the site and get to the trailer, and potentially if the construction parking is not available, we're walking from somewhere off-site. We want to make sure that we are avoiding the areas where your construction is actively occurring, so that we're not in anyone's way and everybody is safe.
Yeah, we're fine with, I'm not sure the wording or where it would go, but I think we can accommodate that as a condition somewhere.
I think we could just add up under administrative conditions that the weekly or bi-weekly construction schedule will be provided to the commission or its agent. Administrative conditions, this would be a new condition J,
How about how about we provide a construction schedule at the onset of the project, and we will notify the condition of any, you know, changes to that schedule, any meaningful changes to that schedule. I don't think the commission necessarily wants to monitor the week-to-week progress of construction on the site.
Yeah, that's gonna change, and you know it.
To the commission.
It will, but
for-
it may, you know, I don't, if it's pushed back a month or 2 months, I think that's something the commission probably wants to know if
Right.
if certain milestones within the construction timeframe are changing, you know, the windows are going to show up 3 weeks later than anticipated. I don't think you know, the commission is really looking to monitor that.
Well, that's true. We wouldn't care about that, but if something meant that the site was gonna be unstabilized for a longer period of time than was anticipated, that's something that we would wanna know.
Well, and that would be in the biweekly monitoring reports. The biweekly monitoring reports for stormwater controls would say, for example, you know, we anticipate.
Wait, our monitoring, are the inspectors in monitoring reports or your monitoring reports?
The inspector's monitoring reports.
To the commission for the public safety building and for Mendez, the project team on both of those construction projects provided the weekly schedule at the beginning of each week and had a weekly virtual meeting with every department, which myself, which I also attended, as well as members of our DPW who at the time were responsible for assisting in the overseeing of stormwater and erosion measures. Without those meetings, or at least that schedule, there are several times where we would have accidentally walked on to active blasting or other construction that was occurring that was being done ahead of schedule, that was not otherwise notified to us.
Do we want to specifically say they should also tell us explicitly blasting schedule? Or any other time when the site will be particularly hazardous?
That's already provided for in a condition where we have to provide a blasting plan, and we're going to be providing a copy of that to the commission. So that would be, the schedule for that work would be part of that. So, you know, I don't, that's information that would already be shared. We're happy to provide the commission if the commission wants to be buried with a weekly report on the project. You know, it's okay with us, you know.
Personally, I think that would be better. I mean, if it's just a matter of adding the agent to the list who gets it distributed, then we or she can decide whether or not there's something out there that she wants to look at. And, you know, then we know what's going on out there without having to go out there every day.
How about we make it bi-weekly? Is that okay? Just a weekly construction schedule report just seems like sort of overkill for where there's going to be already a bi-weekly report on the monitoring during the entire time that the site is not stabilized.
What is the condition under the ZBA's set of
Well, that's a
conditions
good
for
point.
this? Anything?
There's no ongoing monitoring of the same kind of the same type within the ZBA, within the comp permit. They do have the ability to hire a consultant to review plans and ensure that the project is being designed and built according to the plans. But there isn't the same kind of ongoing monitoring requirement.
But there is for blasting.
There is for
It's quite
blasting.
extensive in blasting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
To the commission, the language I have written down is a construction schedule will be provided to the Conservation Commission or its agent at the pre-construction meeting, as well as submit bi-weekly schedules throughout construction. I apologize for wordsmithing as I'm reading. This schedule will include the dates for blasting, and any changes to those dates shall immediately be provided to the commission or its agents, as well as the dates that excavation and installation of stormwater basins shall occur.
I would just request that instead of saying throughout construction, that it be until the site is stabilized. Construction could continue, for a year or more after all the soils have been stabilized. I think that's reasonable for the reasonable purview for the commission.
We don't care what's happening inside the building.
Correct.
Any further changes on that condition? I will scroll back down to condition 29.
So on this next condition, Becca, I had sent a modification to condition E, which I just sent earlier this afternoon. I'm not sure if
Yes,
if
it
you
is
received it.
reflected in red on the screen.
Thank you.
This language changes the authority of the erosion control monitor from having the authority to modify existing controls or additional controls as they deem necessary to the erosion control monitor may recommend modifications to existing controls or the installation of additional controls they deem necessary. It also adds in the language that the applicant, in consultation with the project engineer, shall implement the recommendations as appropriate to maintain compliance with the order of conditions.
The concern here is just we can't obviously have some third-party consultant kind of unilaterally deciding what erosion control measures should be implemented without having some kind of approval process with the applicant and the owner. So we're not at all opposed to, we know we have to comply. If there's non-compliance, obviously we have to bring, address any issues. There's plenty of language already within prior sections that we've talked about where the monitor will bring any issues to the attention of the Conservation Commission. Conservation Commission, we have to comply, with the order. So this is really just trying to properly outline what the authority and the role is of the erosion control monitor. They don't just show up on site and say, you have to implement this, that, or the other thing. And I'll let Will Park, he can talk to some real kind of world examples of, these modifications are made in the field all the time, so that's not something that's unusual. I think it's just the idea of the monitor having a unilateral authority to change something. It should be tied to either a problem or non-compliance with the order. Again, it's kind of just the same sort of theme here.
Well, changing may recommend to shall recommend. May seems not very decisive,
I also have a sort of another compromise to this that I'm happy to share or kind of talk you through it. So I would keep the language that's in place within the existing condition and just add the erosion control monitor shall have the authority to modify existing controls or the installation or additional controls he or she deems reasonably, so just adding the word reasonably necessary, in order to bring the project into compliance with erosion and sedimentation controls. So that's a new sentence there. So they have to deem it reasonably necessary, and it has to be in order to bring the project into compliance with erosion and sedimentation controls, or into compliance with the order of conditions. And I would just say this is a very strong condition. We don't have this kind of condition where someone can just unilaterally say you have to do X, Y, or Z on your project site in any project that we've ever done.
We do have conditions already that we discussed where the commission can say, you need to do this because we've seen that this isn't working.
Absolutely, and the commission
So-
always has that right.
And the erosion control monitor is working for the town. So in the event that the erosion control monitor says, I think you should do C, and you say, yeah, we don't think we need to, the erosion control monitor will presumably tell us, hey, I told them they should do C, and they're saying no, then we could take that up.
Correct.
It's just slower.
So the change in language with this latest proposal would instead read, the erosion control monitor shall have the authority to modify existing controls or additional controls they deem reasonably necessary to bring the project into compliance with the erosion and sedimentation control plan. And I added, and this order of conditions. The erosion control monitor shall ensure that any erosion problems are addressed immediately and shall notify the Ashland Conservation Commission of any problems that occur.
Should that be or this order of conditions?
It would just be the section that's currently highlighted in gray.
I can accept that.
Yeah, I'm, hopefully it doesn't get to the point where this monitor is making decisions like that in the field, that things are gonna be buttoned up and stabled and done properly to begin with.
Yeah.
Or if they are, hopefully it'll be obvious to everybody that, yeah, that's the right thing to do.
Moving on to 29F. This is mostly language changes referring to the monitoring period rather than construction. This refers back to a language change from earlier and just cleans it up. It removes that summarization of the work has been completed, but keeps basically everything else. However, it does remove a status report on problems, progress on construction and grading, changes in construction schedule, to just be erosion or sedimentation control issues, actions taken to address such issues, and any other recommendation for specifically erosion and sedimentation control site management rather than site management as a whole.
And we can add back grading here as we did in the prior condition to be consistent, again, with the scope that we agreed to in the prior condition.
Are there any comments from the commission on that?
Not unreasonable.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
I'm fine.
The commission typically requires bounds in condition 30 along the 25-foot no disturb zone. The no disturb zone was in that language waived by the ZBA. However, the ZBA did require a 25-foot vegetated buffer. And so that language has since been changed accordingly in this condition. The applicant has clarified the location of that buffer And then the additional language that's highlighted in yellow here is specifically calling out that additional signs, in addition to the ones shown on the plan sheet, will be placed on the chain link fence proposed along the parking lot near the trash enclosure adjacent to garage number 7. Garage number 7, or the trash enclosure, excuse me, the trash enclosure adjacent to garage number 7 is at the top of the slope that goes down to the wetland. And in experience with other apartment buildings and developments in Ashland that have trash at the top of slopes near wetlands, the dumpsters get full and people start throwing the trash over the chain link fence and down the hill and into the wetland. This condition just would add additional signage there, as the signage currently shown on the sheet is at the bottom of the hill. Not hearing any comments, I'll move.
We didn't have any comments on that.
Are there gonna be a lot of dogs on this site? We did a site walk at the Cirrus Apartments, and it was appalling what the residents were doing, walking their dogs. It was, and they had like,
Walking their dogs and everything else.
well, I'm trying to be polite about this, but, I mean, they had a thing there, a waste can and plastic bags, and I don't know if anyone ever used it or not, but it was a pretty disgusting sight.
Well, it's pretty hard for him to predict how many dogs are.
I know. I just, but the problem is that they're gonna be walking in the only place that has natural vegetation, and it's gonna be right next to the wetland. So,
Well, there is going to be a dog park area.
Oh, there
and
is?
There is, and
not
that's
next to the wetland, I hope.
not next to the wetland, no.
Good.
No. Adjacent to the building, it's sort of in that triangular area on the page right side as you look at the plan.
Oh, good, okay.
And that'll be fenced, and so there'll be appropriate facilities for,
For picking up after their dogs?
exactly.
Okay, good. All right, I'm happy.
Does this this is the chain link fence that has a gap?
Yes, the chain link
Okay.
fence is required to have, I don't remember the exact size of the gap.
8 inches.
8-inch gap on the bottom for the vernal pool wildlife migration.
Okay, so we don't have to spell it out here. It's already baked into the plan, okay.
The next condition, 32, this condition typically refers to the types of bar and chain oils that can be used during land clearing and requirement to follow Massachusetts best management practices for forestry. The applicant is suggesting removing the language that requires the proposed bar and chain oil type and specification to be submitted and approved by the commission prior to use, and just that bar and chain oils used in the buffer zone shall be biodegradable and non-toxic and suitable for use in environmentally sensitive areas.
That's fine.
I apologize, the one other language here is no further approval by the agent shall be required provided these performance specifications are met. Continuing on, under condition 33 highlighted, again, this is just changing the no disturb zone to the vegetated buffer to match the ZBA's conditions. You get to skip ahead a little bit. Under condition 37 for soil stabilization, this is just repeating that all disturbed slopes, well, to a certain degree, it's repeating disturbed slopes greater than 20% shall be stabilized by November 1st using coir mats or the equivalent if there's not at least 70% vegetation on the slopes by that date. Coir mats shall remain until the slope can be planted, which shall be no earlier than April 15th. I'm not entirely sure why that's in parentheses. Coir mats or equivalent materials used cannot contain monofilament, even if UV degradable. Most of that language is from DEP's comments. They required the erosion control plan. They specifically called out coir mats, which for those who are unfamiliar is coconut husk. It's kind of the strongest you can get for that. And the dates specified are the growing dates that you use in your conditions for any planting requirements. I don't believe the applicant had any comments on this.
Nope.
And I'm not seeing comments from the commission, so I'll carry on. The next several here are just spelling errors, and again, discussions about plans, changing things to approved plans rather than notice of intent plans. The big change here is in 39B. Typically, the commission requires silt sacks to be installed on all new and existing functioning catch basins and drop inlets within the project area. The applicant is rephrasing this to just be new catch basins or inlets within the project area, as there's no existing ones on the project site. I will note that does still include catch basins located within 100 feet of the site to be protected in 39A.
Hey, yeah. And I said to keep it in. I think your recommendation was to take it out. At the direction of the Ashland Concom. The reason being is even if you put in catch basin protection in the catch basins within 100 feet, the water may be going further than 100 feet away from the site that is still, turbid water on public streets that was unanticipated. So that's the only reason I kept that in, is to say that,
That's fine.
there may be more than 100 feet away, but it's still something that needs to be protected. I mean, with the public safety building, it went across the road, across the river, and down, way down the street, and then down into the river, and catch basin protection wouldn't have stopped that, because it was a frickin' river across the road. But it made a huge mess in the river.
That's okay. We're okay with that.
So that
Maybe add just a sentence that if it can be proven that it's related to this project.
That's fine. I mean, obviously, we're not asking you to fix all the evils in the world of Ashland. I would almost think that that's that goes without saying, that obviously it's related to this project.
So I've added, as determined reasonably necessary to address runoff that travels further than 100 feet from the site and is reasonably attributed to the project.
That works. Thanks, Will.
Moving on to dewatering. This is what's in yellow is a change in language. Typically, the commission has a full dewatering plan at this point, and so the condition just refers to that. As you do not have that, language was added specifying what a dewatering plan should include, that it will be reviewed by the commission for approval before any site activities. The applicant has added in the language excluding installation of erosion controls, and that such approval shall not be unreasonably withheld or delayed, provided that the dewatering required adheres to the approved plans being in place of the plans approved by the Conservation Commission. Not hearing any comments, I'll assume the applicant's suggestion is acceptable and carry on.
Yep, that's fine.
Downstream impacts, again, just some language clarification. And prior to that, in yellow again, no disturb zone to vegetated buffer. Plantings, the line here in purple is relocated by the applicant from a perpetual condition in 87 to this condition. Notably, it was in the perpetual conditions so that it ran with the lands and had to be continued to be implemented. Whereas in this condition, it would expire with the issuance of a certificate of compliance.
So I actually think that it does continue to run with the land because it's part of the O&M plan, and the O&M plan is an ongoing document by design. So that, we didn't intend for it not to be a perpetual requirement. We just thought it was more appropriate here.
We should at a minimum state that you're not just submitting a plan, that it should be part of a long-term invasive species management plan as part of the operation and maintenance plan. Otherwise, it's just some amorphous plan, and it's a plan.
We completely agree. We completely agree. We were trying to take a light touch and not make more red line, but we agree it does belong in the O&M plan as all, all in one place, along with the ongoing monitoring and maintenance provisions within that plan.
So that has been added, as Preston described. Moving on.
Yep.
Condition 46 is a new condition regarding the replacement of the 12-inch RCP located in Waverly Street. This is a long condition, so I will just summarize, and I'll zoom out a little bit so you can see the whole thing. It essentially explains that the new pipe, its location, how it shall be installed to not impact the structural integrity of the stone box culvert that it flows into. The applicant's proposal is for this to be submitted to DPW for administrative review and approval. The proposal from myself was that it also is submitted to the Conservation Commission, and that it's not an administrative review and approval, it's a regular review and approval, as that pipe also passes into the buffer zone of a jurisdictional stream. And the stone box culvert itself is a naturally occurring stream that is culverted, and it would be the commission's jurisdiction to ensure that any replaced existing stormwater features that are in those areas comply with the relevant regulations. The applicant did have a copy of the plans shall be provided to the commission for informational purposes concurrently with delivery to the DPW, and that approval and permit issuance shall not be unreasonably withheld or delayed, provided the plans are consistent with the approved plans from this order of conditions. No details for the pipe has been provided to the commission, so I'm not entirely sure how the Conservation Office would be able to determine compliance with the plans if we have nothing to compare them to.
This plan list that you gave us, it has a stamp date in it, and they all say either NA or ND. And don't we need a stamp on the plan set that we're referencing?
They are stamped. The stamp itself was not dated.
Oh, okay, Jennifer House stamped, okay, but it doesn't have a date, is that
Yeah.
right?
So ND is for no date.
Not dated, or,
Yeah.
okay.
But the plan's dated, yep.
Yeah, the issue log states the final date.
Oh, the final rev date, okay.
flooded.
Okay, all right, I was just looking at the last column and going, what's an ND mean? On these plans, I guess it might be the utility plan, does it show the culvert replacement?
It shows a line depicting the culvert. It's on details 5, details V. I have the big plan set on the table here if we need to review it. There's detail A1 that I've just been notified about, which was added March 12th.
Shows like the existing.
So this should, yeah, this shows it, right?
Will, do you want to bring up
That
the
enlargement
plans
has been
maybe
there
on the?
long before March 12th.
And then A1.
I see that enlargement has been there since at least February 12th, not
But-
March 12th.
It doesn't have a detail of the trench?
The storm drainage trench detail appears on detail C7 on sheet C503.
Could I maybe just sort of explain our rationale for the modifications that we made to this condition? So essentially, we sort of agree with the process as generally laid out. So the commission has, and through its peer review consultant, has reviewed the impacts, the stormwater impacts from our project. So we've talked extensively about the fact that we're not adding any net new flow through the culvert, et cetera, et cetera. So in terms of the jurisdictional impacts, the commission and the peer reviewer have already approved that. The only thing that's left to do now is to simply install the pipe. We've provided a general area for where the pipe obviously is going to be replaced. We've provided a general cross-section trench detail and sort of delineated the area with the limit of work. So in terms of the approvals that need to happen now, it's really the DPW needing to review the slightly more detailed set of construction drawings, providing them with everything that they need in order for them to review the replacement of that pipe and, approve that work and issue the street opening permit to do that work. There are no new jurisdictional, wetland impacts to be reviewed because they've already, been reviewed. So the process, the way that is laid out here is we provide a set of detailed drawings, deliver those drawings to the DPW. At the same time, we'll deliver a copy of the drawings to the Conservation Commission. And then the DPW reviews and approves that work and issues the permit, and we do the work. And we've sort of created this new title for the set of drawings. We'll call them the RCP drawings. We'll submit those drawings to the DPW and submit them to the Conservation Commission at the same time. So from our standpoint, there really isn't any additional wetland, jurisdictional issue to approve by the Conservation Commission. It's really now the DPW that needs to review the plans, approve the plans, and issue the work.
To the commission, just a correction on the record, GCG's recommendation was that the culvert replacement and all details related be submitted as part of this notice of intent or as an additional filing before the commission. The commission at that meeting agreed that an additional filing would not be needed if the details are prior to construction, provide to the commission for review and approval.
Yeah, and that's what I was kind of getting at, is I don't see a need for a new filing or an additional filing for this culvert. It's on the plan. It's on the plans, the details in there for the trench line. All you need is DPW approval to do it. I don't want to go through another protracted permitting process for something we've already looked at and agree with.
I agree.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with this.
This is just gonna be a 5-minute item at some meeting. Unless you're doing something really wrong. We have a number of things like this that show up where it's just the developer shows us, oh, we said we were gonna do this, this is the details of how we're gonna do it, and usually it's like, yeah, go ahead.
But it's really a DPW issue, that it's a courtesy that we're involved in.
It is jurisdictional to us.
It's jurisdictional, but I think we can handle it all in this process and not have to do it through another whole nother process. That's all.
So do I, because
So,
we've already done it.
Your wording is that you would give us the final plans concurrent with the DPW, and then
Correct.
we would just voice approve them. And I'm fine with that.
No, this says it's, the wording that they had was that it would be informational to us as opposed to approved by us.
Yeah, and that's fine with me. I don't.
Okay.
We're going to approve these plans, and it's showing on these plans, so it's approved.
Correct.
As far as we're concerned.
Correct, and these plans are really at the same level as, with respect to the RCP replacement as everything else. These are not construction documents per se, so
Right.
those will have to come in due course for the entire project.
Yep. Gotcha.
And should something show up that the agent has concerns about, I'm sure she'll let DPW know, well, hey, think twice about this, and I don't foresee that happening, but.
Correct. Ultimately, they have to approve the plans and issue the road opening permit
Yep.
for the work to be done.
Moving on, since it seems the commission is accepting the applicant's language.
I think so.
Condition 47 is new language regarding blasting. It's just referring to the blasting activities and ledge removal plan that the ZBA requires to be submitted to the fire department to also be submitted to the commission. There's no review and approval process on this, and the only language here is, again, that approved plans language. Beneath that, condition 48, stone box culvert. This was a condition added requiring the stone box culvert, which the previously mentioned RCP ties into, to have a structural integrity analysis prior to construction as well as after construction, and that the licensed structural engineer who performs that analysis, if they determine any deterioration to be reasonably attributed to the construction activities, for that to be repaired and addressed. The applicant has suggested changing that from structural integrity analysis to a visual inspection.
I would also add to this that we would, I'm proposing a modification to the language here that we've proposed so that the post inspection be done after any blasting work.
Yeah, I would agree, because that could move things too.
So I think we're all talking about, the same thing. You'd want to have video, photographs taken of the condition of the culvert, have that very well documented in a report. We provide that prior to any work being done, and then we provide that at the end after all blasting activity has been completed.
I would imagine DPW is going to probably be looking for that as well,
No doubt.
given the condition of this culvert and.
And the culvert's not called out in your ZBA blasting, is that correct?
It's not, but there's a general catch-all that says any abutting property or structures within 250 feet. The culvert is actually over 500 feet away from what we think will be the closest point of any blasting. So, it's quite a distance away. Typically, you're within 200, that pre-blast survey, of course, it's dependent on the size of the blast. If you have a really large blast, it's a larger area, obviously. So the blasting contractor will determine that, but in any event, regardless, for the purpose of this condition, we'll do the post inspection after any blasting.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, I think I'm good with this.
Further moving on, condition 50, request for certificate of compliance. The commission typically requires the as-built plan, an engineer letter to show compliance with this order of conditions in addition to the approved plans. The applicant is suggesting just in accordance with the approved plans.
I mean, I don't know that we can just go with the approved plans, because if you go out there with the approved plan, you don't know that everything is in the same place that it's supposed to be on that plan. There's no way, just looking around the site with a plan, you could tell whether things are in the right place or not, or at the right elevation.
I would just ask Will Park if he can chime in, because this is a representation that the engineer would need to make.
Yeah.
I think it's fine to keep in that it's in accordance with the order of conditions as well.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, we don't.
I don't think we want to just to set expectations that we won't be submitting a 50-point response to each one of these conditions. It'll be more general, but there are things in this order that would not necessarily appear on the plans.
Through the commission and to the applicant, typically the affidavit simply states that the engineer has reviewed the site conditions and confirms that all work was done in substantial compliance with the approved plans in order of conditions, and leaves it at that.
Right.
The order of conditions legally is an amendment to the plans? On the planning board, I thought we said it was, but I don't know if it is here. But anyway, no, this is fine.
Any conditions on the order of conditions typically would supersede in the event of any conflict with the plans.
Yeah, so that's good.
Okay, so we're good with this one?
The final section of that also deleted failure to request a certificate of compliance or extension before expiration of the order of conditions will constitute a violation of the bylaw, as the bylaw is waived. Doesn't apply.
Right.
Stormwater conditions, most of this is just language things. However, conditions 53 regarding the construction entrance stabilization and 54 stormwater inlet protection are proposed for removal. These are, as the applicant pointed out, duplicative of earlier conditions.
Yep.
Condition 54, post-construction stormwater management structures. This typically states that no stormwater runoff shall be directed to a post-construction stormwater management structure until written approval is received from the commission. All stormwater management systems that include plants shall be fully vegetated before seeking written approval. those last couple lines were removed and it was changed to until the conservation agent has provided written approval. If the commission is comfortable with myself as agent providing that approval, that can stay. However, I would recommend that the language that stormwater management systems that include plantings should still be fully vegetated prior to stormwater being directed towards them. This would include any bioretention.
We used to have a bioretention, we don't have it anymore, so that's
Yeah,
why
that's
that was
what I thought.
stricken. That's the only reason why it's not there, it's just not applicable. But
Yeah, they're all underground now, right? Everything?
there is a surface basin, but it's
Oh, there
not,
is one surface, okay. That's right.
it's not a bioretention basin.
I do believe it is vegetated with a wet mix, however, for stabilization. And if stormwater was directed into it before that was vegetated, that sediment may end up clogging any outlet pipes for the basin.
Yeah.
We're okay with including vegetated with that, retaining it.
Okay.
Moving on, temporary swales and settling basins. The language here in yellow is just citing where it is on the site plan and noting that additional swales and settling basins may be constructed provided that's not within the wetlands and other requirements. And then the applicant caught a reference error for environmental monitor and changed it to erosion control monitor. 56, compaction prevention. This condition refers, excuse me, to roping off and flagging areas where subsurface infiltration systems are to be located, as well as being a generic condition that cites other types of stormwater structures as well. The applicant revised this language to say the location of the two subsurface infiltration systems shall be clearly identified on the surface to prevent compaction by heavy equipment.
I think the intent's the same.
Yeah, no, I'm good with that. You said you were gonna be building these early anyway, right?
Correct.
So they'll be constructed and they're under roadway, so you would
Right.
theoretically be driving on them after the fact anyway.
Right.
Condition 57, just changing the infiltration basin shall not be constructed until the entire contributing drainage area is stabilized to brought online. This goes back to Jean's point that they're being built early on in construction. Condition 58, additional test pits is an added condition for an additional deep test pit at subsurface infiltration system 2. This was recommended by GCG. That was condition 60. Condition 61, stormwater basin liners, was also recommended by GCG. GCG's suggestion was that the installation of the impervious liner to ensure water tightness and that the shop drawings for that be submitted to be approved by the Conservation Commission. Language was adjusted to be the project engineer and the Conservation Commission, and the applicant has suggested to change it just to the project engineer.
So this is includes things like approving shop drawings,
Yeah,
detailed constructions of it, so.
We're not in the business to do that. I agree.
Thank you.
Assuming that language is accepted, condition 62, surface detention basin berm. This is another recommendation from GCG, just requiring that the berm be constructed in a way to protect the impermeable clay membrane from, I'm realizing there's a typo there, from the installation of the outlet structure pipe or other construction-related activities. I think, Jean, you had also mentioned this at a previous meeting to ensure that the phasing of that protects the clay center. And condition 63, roof runoff collection, was another requirement from GCG, or suggested requirement from GCG, requiring the applicant to provide a document specifying the architectural roof runoff collection system according to the watershed subcatchment divides.
These are new now, right? Because they're yellow, so are you okay with these?
Yes.
Okay.
The next several conditions, which I'm just going to scroll past, do not apply to the project and are shown in red. Your typical conditions for vernal pools and wildlife habitat protection. The applicant just changed the title to potential vernal pool. Most of the language here is specifying within condition 62 and 64 that it is potential vernal pools. And then in condition 64, instead of requiring the vegetated buffer to be planted with high-density diverse native plantings to provide a variety of structure and food variety for vernal pool species, to simply read that it shall remain in its undisturbed vegetated condition, except that it shall be kept free of invasive species.
And that's the language that's also consistent with the ZBA condition.
Are there any comments from the commission
No,
on that?
I'm good with that. Leave the pools alone.
Do we want to say, if restoration is required, it shall be planted with high-density diverse?
If restoration is required,
That's a
we're gonna,
separate thing, never mind, yeah.
we're gonna be in an enforcement action.
It'll be a restoration plan.
That's true.
And moving on to the perpetual conditions, condition, what would have been 80, stormwater operations and maintenance. The applicant has adjusted the language, and I apologize, it's a little hard to sparse off, to sparse what's changed and removed.
Actually, the entire section of it was just replaced with the first section. I'm happy to go back to the prior language. I just thought it was very confusing. And I take no pride in authorship, but I think the idea here is that so long as the site is being managed according to the O&M plan, subsequent, any work that's done in order to maintain compliance with the O&M, with the stormwater management system, shouldn't require a new filing.
Right. So that part you've replaced and took out the stuff at the bottom?
Correct.
Just reworded this?
Correct.
Kind of the same thing?
Correct.
Okay. It looks fine.
Yeah. Do you need to highlight the month, day, year as something that needs to be updated?
Yes, we would put in the language citing the operations and maintenance plan prior to this going out to signature for you all, as is the typical procedure. And I apologize, it's highlighted, but the track changes is not showing it.
Yep, that's good.
The remaining changes in the perpetual conditions are all just removal of language specifically saying the condition will remain in effect in perpetuity and shall not be released by the certificate of compliance, or that the conditions shall survive the expiration of the order of conditions.
That's already covered by the heading up above.
The last one was a condition that was added for a permanent vegetated buffer. This is just referring to the ZBA's vegetated buffer and clarifies that it shall be maintained around the wetlands and that it shall be kept permanently vegetated. That's duplicative of the earlier conditions, and then the bottom section is that long-term invasive species management plan, which was added to an earlier condition as well.
Which is part of the O&M.
Right.
That's the end of it. You got to it. I will note that as of right now, it's only 72 conditions.
Get rid of 3.
We've probably dropped a few pages, too.
Yes.
And for the record, I'm assuming that you're okay with the conditions
We are
as we've discussed.
very thorough.
Well, I'll make a motion to accept the order condition.
Wait, I think the hearing's still open.
Close the hearing first.
Is there anybody in the
Yeah, I was about to ask if any, I know, it's,
public comment?
is there anyone in the audience that'd like to ask any questions or comments at this point?
There's still a few hangers on.
I don't think so.
I see no hands from our one resident remaining.
All right, okay.
So we need a motion to close the hearing?
Yeah, do I hear a motion to close the notice of intent, 61 Waverly Street, map 15, parcel 12, the Gutierrez Company, DEP file number 95-1016.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Ackerman, I.
Crow, aye.
Crouch, eye.
Atkinson, aye.
Moulton, aye.
Toledo abstain.
Wands, aye. Motion passes, the hearing is closed.
All right, now I can,
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to accept the,
The issue.
to issue the order of conditions as discussed for 61 Waverly Street, map 15, parcel 12, Gutierrez Company, DEP number 95-1016.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Ackerman, I.
Crow, aye.
Crouch, eye.
Atkinson, aye.
Moulton, aye.
Toledo abstain.
Wands, aye. Motion passes. Order of conditions are accepted.
Thank you.
That's it.
That's it.
Wow, that's it.
Before you go, we've come a long way since we started these hearings, and I think it was pretty efficiently. I know that we had some differences on our first site walk on different things. I can't speak for the whole commission, but I appreciate the fact that your team worked with us on these things to try to get the best project possible. Whether these projects are popular or not is another discussion. We've had that discussion prior as well. We only have jurisdiction over what we have jurisdiction over here. And you've worked with us with that to accommodate the concerns that we have. I hope it's a good project. I hope for the town it's a good project, and so thank you.
Yeah. I think we've done everything we can to make it the best project that we could within our jurisdiction.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you.
Right.
And I appreciate all the work and the time that's gone into the deliberation. I think the town has been served well by the review process that the commission put forth. I'm not just saying that. I do think that the comments and the information and the topics that we covered were good to talk through, and we're excited about the project, and we thank the commission for all the work.
Well, we appreciate your willingness to work with us and make this a positive experience for both of us, I hope.
Well, we've been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
We're a small company, but we kind of live and breathe permitting projects and building projects, and all around, inside of 495 and just on the outside of 495. That's we don't do projects outside of Massachusetts, so we take a lot of pride in everything that we do.
Oh, good. Well, good luck with this one.
Thank you.
I also want to, before we finish, publicly acknowledge the work that Sophia and Becca have done. It's an enormous amount of work that they've done. It makes our job easier, and we very much appreciate it.
Agreed.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Thanks very much.
everyone. Have a good night.
Good night.
Same time next week.
Do we have any minutes that we have to do tonight?
You have one set of minutes you need to approve tonight, and just 1 second before you get to it, as a note for anyone coming in to sign the order of conditions, on the topic of a lot of work to do, it's gonna take us a little bit longer than normal to clean up all the formatting and everything on those conditions, so it may not be ready for signature tomorrow, but we will try to get it to you this week.
You have my comments on these minutes, correct? We did that last week. Didn't we, we were gonna do it in the last hearing last week, and we deferred it to this week, I believe.
Yes, I do have those comments.
You have my comments.
I am pulling them up now. And then I also have comments that I received from Jean, and unfortunately, they are not compiled. So,
Well, mine are very simple.
so I'm going to show the ones from Carl, and then Jean, if you can call out yours.
Yep. I think I only asked to reference the speakers that were appearing virtually, since we had a hybrid meeting. That Chris Lucas and I forgot the engineer's name. And then that Jeff
Engler.
Engler was appeared virtually.
Oh, yeah, all three of them, yeah.
Do we want to just put that as a line at the top, that the applicant,
No, yeah, it could-
representatives all appeared virtually
yeah,
for this hearing?
we can do that. I put it after each, when they were referenced in the body of the first time. Or remotely, or whatever, however, initially I said appeared virtually, but then I guess appeared remotely also works.
All appeared remotely for this hearing. The changes I have from Carl on this is just clarifying Massachusetts general laws plural, as opposed to just the Chapter 40B process, as there's more than just Chapter 40B applicable to the site. And Jean, call me out with any of your additional changes.
Oh, that was the three references to the people were the only things I put in.
Carl also called out a spelling error on my part, changing Scrivener to Scrivener.
Still don't know who that is.
Clarifying language on lines 88 and 89 to say that he received an email that Matt's DEP had sent to the LSP stating that the RAM completion statement should be submitted by March 13th. This was something that we had just gotten the language a little bit incorrect, and so Carl corrected it. Removing some unnecessary duplicated words on line 91. And I think that may be it, but I'm scrolling through to make sure.
218,
218?
or maybe it was something, it was like, maybe it's 221 now, independent on the direction or independent of the direction.
Think of the direction.
Yeah.
That was it.
Continuing further, that seems like the last of it.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of March 2nd, is that what it is? March 2nd, as amended.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Ackerman, I.
Crow, aye.
Crouch, aye.
Hackett's and I.
Moulton, aye.
Toledo, I.
Wands, aye. Motion passes. March 2nd, 2026 meeting minutes are accepted. Next on the agenda is member prerogative, Commissioner Education, various topics. Does anyone have a member prerogative? No? Okay.
I have no prerogative.
All right, that's the end of our agenda.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Ackerman, I.
Crow, aye.
Crouch, aye.
Hackett's and I.
Moulton, aye.
Toledo, I.
Wands, aye. Meeting is adjourned.
Okay, thanks, everybody.
Good night.
All right.